By now, there's only two questions you should be asking yourself. Did a black man discover the fountain of youth? And who is Prester John? I mean, hey, what have we discovered so far, Drop Nation? Is Prester John on Kong? Is he the great Khan? And I've been messing with this idea in my head, and y'all might think I'm crazy. If y'all don't think I'm crazy already, y'all gonna think I'm crazy. I told you this might be a 34-part series. And it's not it's not my fault, it's your fault. Cause y'all keep sending me more links and more links and more links. And I gotta look at them because y'all know I'm hot on the trail, man. I'm on your ass, Prester John. We on your ass. Oh, Prester John. When we figure you out, we gonna figure us out. Who is Prester John? El Preste Juan, Yawan, Johannes. This Johannes, this priest. Prester, this patriarch, this priest king. This is part 12 of the investigation of Prester John, or the noble Ethiopian Abyssinian. This Abyssinian stuff, man, is so deep. I mean, just reading the little bit that we read last time with the E.A. Wallace Budge, breaking it down, man, about, just the correlation between Abyssinia and how, some prefer Ethiopian. And how this, either one is not truly the same. Abyssinia is not truly Ethiopia. Yet Abyssinia predates Ethiopia or Ethiopia. This Greek hijack. It's Ethiop. Alright, who's Prester John? I mean, this is going to be action-packed. We're going to go there. That's why I got some nice, smooth guitar. Y'all check it out, man. Y'all got to subscribe to music. This is called Music 432 Hertz. They got some cool jams, man. We're going to start putting some more of these guitars and pianos in our vibe suites. Guitarra, Española, Canciones, Populares, 432 Hertz. Alright. It's a beautiful thing, beautiful thing. So we're going to stay in that frequency as we go. Let's get them. This is a blog called New Advent. This is an incredible article, man. All this stuff will be linked for you. The name of the legendary Eastern priest and king. Are y'all ready? Y'all ready to see what they have to say? I mean, what do they have to say about this? We're just trying to get cozy. Alright, here we go. Suddenly reading became fun to me. I know it's becoming fun to you. Prester John, we on your ass, man. First stage. Alright, let's see what this particular, scholar's trying to break down on Prester John. The mythical journey to Rome of a certain Patriarch John of India. Prester John of the three Indias. Remember the India drop, how you're in the third India, and how that goes to the ends of the earth. The further of the ends of the earth is the third India. Alright, man, we're going to get into that Hindu India drop and see how all this stuff is coming together. All the way back to Atlantis. But let's go. Patriarch John of India in 1122 and his visit to Calestus II cannot have been the origin of the legend. Not until much later in a manuscript dating from the latter part of the 15th century. So now we're in the 1400s. Tractatus Pulcherimus. Do we find the patriarch and priest and patriarch, priest king united in one person, The first combination of the two legends appears at the end of the 12th century in an apocryphal book of the devotions called the Narrative of Eliseus. The first authentic mention of Prester John is to be found in the Chronicle of Otto, Bishop of Friesland, in 1145. Otto gives as his authority Hugo, Bishop of Kabbalah, the latter by order of the Christian prince. We're going to get into the Nestorian. We already got a lot of that. So, old king renowned for wise counsel. Who's an old king that's renowned, meaning everyone knows this king. Everyone knows this king to be wise. Who's the wise king we all know? Is it not King Solomon? Is there a wiser king than King Solomon? We're going to get into our timelines. Come on. Everything plays in this investigation of Priest King John. Alright, so this, the latter by the order of this Christian prince, Raymond of Antioch, went in 1144 after the fall of Edessa to Pope Eugene III to report the grievous position of Jerusalem and to induce the West to send another crusade. Otto met the Syrian prelate at Vertibo, where in the Pope's presence he learned that a certain John, who governed as priest and king in the Far East, had with his people become converted to Nestorianism. We looked at the etymology of Nestor, old king renowned for wise counsel. A few years earlier he had conquered the brother monarchs of Media and Persia, so he's whooping Muslim ass around this time. He's whooping through Media and Persia, Samaridi. Prester John had emerged victorious from the terrible battle that lasted 3 days and ended with the conquest of Ecbatana, after which the victor started for Jerusalem to rescue the Holy Land. But the swollen waters of the Tigris compelled him to return to his own country. He belonged to the race of the three magi. Oh, these magicians who had the magic, this Enoch magic, this Solomon magic, alright? Their former kingdoms being subject to him. Their former kingdoms are all subject to him, this Prester John. His enormous wealth was demonstrated by the fact that he carried a scepter of pure emeralds. Who else carried a scepter of pure emeralds? Did Solomon have a scepter? Did we not bring out the scepter? That's connecting Solomon. David, Solomon, all that. They had a scepter of emeralds. Prester John has a scepter of emeralds. What's going on with our timelines? Oh, we're going to get back into our timelines and history and how they are parallel and duplicates and copies and phantoms. Everything projected out of this medieval time they call this 12th century, 13th century, and then projected and dropped off in the past 300 years, 1,000 years, 1,800 years. Keep going, let's go. We've been given a lie, and we have to put ourselves back together again. It is doubtful if the West gave unreserved credence to this tale, judging from the long silence of its chronicles. Some 20 years later, there came to light, in unaccountable ways, letters from this mysterious personages to be Byzantine Emperor Manuel Barbosa and other princes, which roused extravagant hopes. About 100 manuscripts of this letter to Manuel of Constantinople are still extant, with many variants, and afford an interesting insight into this exceedingly complicated fiction. This wild medieval tale of Prester John, of the last noble image of the Negro, what they call a wild medieval tale. That's what they call you. That's what they call your actual history. A myth, a wild medieval tale is who you are to them. Contains the principal incidents of the long Alexander legend. Whoa! I know what you're thinking. Okay. Drop. Where you going? Where you taking us? Look at this thing, man. Look how this Alexander legend connects to Prester John, connects to Genghis Khan. We're going to have to step way back on this one to see the pattern, the design. This medieval tale contains the principal incidents of the long Alexander legend. This letter is probably a Nestorian forgery, probably, but we don't really know. But let's just put forgery out there. From that time, it was believed that a Christian, Nestorian Christian, old king renowned for wise counsel. Remember, they're making King David a Christian. They're making King Solomon a Christian. They're just trying to connect certain roots to say, see, look, he's technically a Christian. Why would King David need to be a Christian? Why would an Israelite need to be a Christian? Only if they told you you need to be hijacked. Something needs to come between you and your Creator. Is the only way you think you need to be a Christian. Is if you think something has to come between you and your Creator. Kingdom exists in the Far East or in the heart of Asia. The legend furnished a wealth of material for the poets, writers, and explorers of the Middle Ages. In Europe, Sir John Mandeville. We're going to get into some of the travels of Sir John Mandeville. We got that. The travels of Sir John Mandeville. And if you don't think it's drop, of the pilgrimages in Jerusalem, the holy places thereabout. What do you mean? Of the lands of Albania and Libya, of the wishings for the watching, of the sparrow hawk, and of Noah's ship. What do you mean? What's this guy talking about? Wherefore he is clept the Great Chan, the Great Chan, the Great Khan. So you switch that K to a C and now it's Chan. Remember this. This is all the drop that's been piling up with all these great, wonderful teachers, man. And, everyone who's, decides to be fearless, man. Pick up a camera and just start teaching the people, man. We love you for that. Of his style of his letters and of the prescription about his great seal and his privy seal. What? What is he talking about? Sir John. Of the governance of the great Chan's court. And when he maketh solemn feast. Solemn feast? The great Chan's making solemn feast? What do you mean? Of the law and the customs of the Tartarian. What do you mean the law? What do you mean the law and customs of the Tartarians dwelling in Cathay? What do you mean? Of the royal estate of Prester John. Oh, you even have the drop on Prester John. And of a rich man that made a marvelous castle and clept in paradise. He lived in paradise. And of his subtlety. Alright, so this rich man in paradise, this Prester John, the last noble, kingly image to remind you of your actual royal lineage that just got taken recently in the 1400s and 1300s and 1500s. They erased you, my people. They erased you. And now you're a myth. Now you're just a medieval tale of the kingdoms, of the customs of kings and others that dwell in the isles coasting to Prester John's land, and of the worship that the son doth to the father when he is dead. Interesting. What do you mean? So we got this. You're going to have this link. You can click on it. come back to it, pause the video, go through it. You can hit all these chapters up. I'm going to put this in the library. You already know. I'm just showing you that this ain't play. The investigation of Prester John ain't play. What do you mean? So when we get to, in England, Sir John Mandeville. So that's the drop that we're going to get to. Exploited it to excess. In Germany, Wolfram von Eschbach in Perceval was the first to unite the legend of the Holy Grail with this history of Prester John. Whoa! So all that Indiana Jones shit is about Prester John. Prester John got the Holy Grail. Prester John got the Fountain of Youth. Prester John seems to have the keys, people. Why haven't you heard about Prester John in history? Why aren't our brothers yelling on every corner about Prester John? Who is Prester John? I mean, we all want to know. Now watch how we go back to Alexander. So was the first to unite the legend of the Holy Grail with the history of Prester John. He found many and more extravagant imitators. Alright. It is questionable whether the letter of Pope Alexander III, dated from the Rialto in Venice, 1177, and beginning with the words Alexander Episcopus or Papa Servis Servorum de Carissimo in Cristo Christi. You're getting kind of Christi. Filio. Johnny. Is that John? Juan. Elestro. Alright, all that. Alright. Has anything to do with Prester John? Maybe. The Pope had heard many rumors of a powerful Christian ruler in the East. His physician in ordinary, Philippus. Now check out Irvin Reed, man, who's dropping on this Philo. And I'm sure Irvin's already on this, man. So love to you, bro. Love what you're doing. Love your presentation, man. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate you keeping the cipher going, man, with this energy. So his physician in ordinary, Philippus, on returning from those parts, brought him further information. The Pope sent his confidant to the king with the much discussed letter and an invitation to enter the Roman Church. Also a caution against boastfulness about his vast power and wealth. Alright, so let me see, make sure. So this Pope sent this letter to the king with the much discussed letter. Alright, so we must be talking about Prester John's letter. Also caution against the boastfulness about his vast power and wealth. Provided that he listened to this warning, the Pope would willingly grant his two requests, apparently to cede him a church in Rome and to accord him certain rights in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. So everybody wants your drop. Everybody wants to take down your turf. It seems that you're the end game, Negro. So-called Negro. It seems that you're the end game. It seems that taking down the so-called Negro, Hebo, copper-colored race right here that Columbus said he's coming to seize the Holy Land, Holy City, Mount Zion. The rest of this mission is not known, but judging from the details in this letter, it is certain that the recipient was no mythical personage. The Pope may have recognized him as presbyter of the legend, but this is uncertain. So who's Prester John? Now Otto von Friesling does not mention the exact year of the battle between the eastern conqueror of the Persian Sultan. He only remarks that 1155 had taken place. He called it ante non multos annos. On the other hand, there is found in the annals of Adma, All right, so we're going to get into... Oh, yeah, okay, good. We're on track. All right, so as far as 1141 are a continuation of Otto's Chronicles. The following note, Johannes Presbyter. All right, so this Johannes, and we're going to get into how they, Presbyter Johannes. So this is how they falsely, which you'll read later, is how, they admit that they falsely were putting his kingdom right here. And in reality, they never found it, so they kept pushing back. They didn't actually find it until Columbus discovered America. That's when they knew they found where Prester John was. They just took you out. Now, if this is linking to an Israelite king, and if this is the reason why in Lost Tribes and Promised Land, Rudolph Sanders says that, Prester John is, Columbus took the Hebrew interpreter, Torres, possibly because he thought the Great Khan was the Israelite king who lived across from Prester John, who was across the river from Prester John, which of course is the San Benyan, the Sabbath river that rests only on the Sabbath. So why would Rudolph Sanders in Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, and we're going to pull it up, be saying the Great Khan is the Israelite king? So that was the first relation, or the first hint I really got to, okay, this Great Khan, why would he be calling a Khan an Israelite king? Then we find out that Prester John is also called Ong Khan. Alright, so okay. I'm just catching us up to speed. We got a long way to go. So independently of the much earlier work of the Diversas, Oppert thinks that Khan, I don't know why that sounds like the Ku Klux Klan, you know what I'm saying? But, alright. Khan, Korkan or Korkan, Korchan, or Korchan, as the East Asian conqueror is called, in the Chronicles, could easily have been Jochanan, or in Western parlance, John. This name was then very popular and was often given to Christian or Mohammedan princes. So it was often given a name or a title. This John is a name of a title of princes, often given to Christian or Mohammedan princes. Khan. It's just a title for the prince. History knows nothing about Christianity of Yeluitashe. We gotta get into this. Yet it is clear that the League of the West against the Mohammedans stirred up the oppressed Christians on the borders of Tartar Asia to look for a deliverer. So they needed a deliverer. Pay attention, people. So these Christians was getting their ass whipped by these Moors, these Muslims, right? These Moors, these Islam, these Moors. But they're fighting, and they finally boot the Moors out. Supposedly, right? That's what we're told, that the Moors were expelled out of Spain, January 1492. Then in October the same year, you get ran up on right after they got kicked out there, according to our history. These Moors, our dark family, right? Our melanated family, our cousins, our family, they get booted there, and then we get rolled up on the same year. Now, first you might think, oh, well, yeah, it makes sense. Everyone, they just started whooping all melanated ass everywhere. But how can they do that all by themselves? As we know, These same Moors were on the boats, showing them where to go, giving them the drop on us here. As we know, this land Ame'rican, love to the brother Uno, hit me up like, is America Ame'rican? Ame'rican, Ame'rican. Princes, nobles, khans. The land of the khans. And have we been giving this stuff upside down as usual in history? Who really are these people? Because we don't know much about them. We don't know much about them at all. And it looks like they might be us. But that's why we're surfing the wave. Jaredon. Alright, quick, I just see a familiar name. I just want to see if I can find it here. No. Let's see. All right, Jaredon. I'm looking for something that makes sense to me. How do you spell this? Let me get it. How you spell this, man? One more time. Jaredon. Alright, we found it another way. Ooh, they made us work for that. Y'all gotta give us some love, man, on this research stuff, because it takes, I'm doing this right before you, so you see that it ain't like we just pull this stuff up. We gotta find this stuff. We gotta find it. Alright, who is David Soslan of Georgia? Who is this king, this David, son of Prince Jaredon of Alania? Who's Prince Jaredon? It's a simple question. Husband of Princess Russadon, mother of David Soslan, king of Georgia. Jaredon. Husband of this princess, who's the mother of David Soslan, king of Georgia. Look at the dates. So what you're going to find is that we're tracing the same King David line that they're hiding. They don't have any pictures up. Husband of Tamar, queen of Georgia, this Russia, this Rus. Remember Moscow, Moshe, Moscow is named after Moses. Deal with it. Look it up. Moscow, Mossad, Moscow, Rus, Ross, Clan Ross. All that is Russia. So this Georgia's tying into that. Asia. Russia is Asia. Mother of David Slauson, king of Georgia. So this Prince Jaradan and this king, all this is the same. Boom. Now I found him a different way earlier. I just wanted to show you. So this is called the Exarch David the Sixth. They're saying Slauson of Babylon in Georgia. Okay. So now you're not just getting Georgia, you're getting Babylon. But now we're going to get into what does this Exarch mean. So just look it up right quick. Exarch, plural, exarchs. The leader of the Jews of the Babylonian exile. So this King David was leading Jews during the exile of Babylon. I'm not making this shit up. We just found that by looking up the definition of Exarch. The leader of the Jew, or leaders of the Jews of Babylonian exile, the term applied by Greeks. So the Greeks called these leaders, these Israelite leaders, these kings, right? What's a leader? A king. So we're talking about the kings, the Israelite kings during the Babylonian exile. The term applied by Greeks to the head of a community of Jews in a diaspora. So the head of the community, the king, the chief, a grand rabbi, the chief, Exarch, leader of the Jews of the Babylonian exile. All right, so this is happening right before your eyes. Now remember this name. Over here they called him son of Prince Jadaran. Okay. Over here they call him son of Raja Chola. So clearly this Raja Chola and the link that we found Chola in, they took off. You know, it no longer exists. So we can't even get that no more. But we got it still in the previous drop. So if you go up the earlier, parts, you'll find it. We're on part 12, man. We've been surfing the wave. So this Raja, they're also calling here Jaradan, emperor of Soli. So he's the son, this David Slauson of Babylon, this Exarch, this king. He's a king, an Israelite king that they're hiding. They're hiding his face. He's an Israelite king. We'll get into this title, Slauson. But during the Babylon exile, he's not Babylonian. He's not a Babylonian king. He's leading them during the Babylonian exile, right? Exarch, the leader of the Jews of the Babylonian exile, head of the community. Over here, Prince Jaradan. So he's son of Prince Jaradan. So this Jaradan is also Raja Chola II, who they call Emperor of Soli, and then it says Prester John. Bang. Oh, we on your ass, Prester John. We on his ass, Mr. Postman. Oh, man. So this Raja Chola II is Jaradan, Emperor of Soli, Saliman. Prester John, Panion. Oh, we gotta dig up the Panions then. Now here it says he's the father of Solomon, in parentheses Soli, Jewish king of Telmas. So we gotta get on top. This is all we gotta start digging up. So this Telmas, so he's the father of Solomon. This Raja, Jaradan, Prester John. Remember, he's also the father of this Exarch, this King David. Prester John also has a son who's David. Remember, we're also calling him Letnadango David, which makes sense that he'll also have a David as a son. So which David is he? We're starting to corner Prester John. He seems to be called here by these King David lines, this Solomon line, these Israelites. All of his sons are kings. All of Prester John's sons, all of Jadaron's son, Emperor of Soli, King Solomon, Jewish king of Telmas, Hanan, Jewish king of Tahama, Exarch, leader, right, in Babylon, David, Soslan, Babylon, and Georgia. So who is Prester John? We'll get back there in a second. Because when you get into these exarchs, there's great links like this, peerage.org, the exarchs. This list is an excerpt of this page. Acknowledgement to the author, David Hughes, man, who dug up these exarchs, man. He got the first dynasty. These are all the leaders. All the way up into, all right, we got a whole table. We got a timeline of these exarchs. They got it all the way to 1270. So my people, I'm asking you, if they got the exarchs all the way to 1270, and if Columbus is saying, I'm going to America to seize the holy city and Mount Zion, and if all they did was take down Jerusalem, and now you see the list of the kings of Israel going up into the 1200s, the 13th century, do you see that they went to war against Israel? And they took the holy city, like Columbus said, he's going to come here and take the holy city, seize the holy city of Mount Zion in the Biblioteca de Colombina in Sevilla, Spain. David, Shlomo, Shemaiah, David, Shaniah, Hezekiah, Shalom, Nathan. It's this play. These are all the kings, my people. Patriarchs. So this here goes into Shalom, and that's in 1365 to 1401. Deposed by Tartar king Tamerlane. So he was killed by a Tartar king named Tamerlane. This King Shalom. However, his descendants continued to be recognized by the Jews of the diaspora as their kings until their extinction, so-called Negro, upon the death of Pasha, called King of the Jews, by the Baghdad ghetto in 1825. So this is going on, man, it's deeper than rap, man. 1825, the last prince of the dynasty's main line, upon which the title to the throne devolved to another Davidic descent line. What other lines of David do we know popping up? The one that's very popular, of course, is the Abyssinian Ethiopian situation with Solomon and Sheba, all that situation. But that's one line. That's one Davidic line. Do you know about the other lines? Do you know about the other exarchs, the other kings, the dynasties? Not the Abyssinian drop. All the drop. The whole picture. But I ain't even gotten started. I gotta go back to the first link. Because all we got to that was... Alright, let's just go down. Alright, yeah. Jorchan, Jakachan, John. Jadaron. So just pay attention to these Johns. And right here they say Jadaron. 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 Jorchan. Jochachan. Jotanan. Jatanan. Alright, the same name is very popular and was often given to Christian or Mohammedan princes. History knows nothing about the Christianity of the Yeliuchashi. Man, what's going on with that right quick? I just want to put it in and see what we get. This is just called, man, keeping the dice rolling. Sometimes we just gotta yell out, Yeliuchachi, Yeliutachi. Man, there's some drop that popped up in German, man. Der Prester Johannes and Sage Saga. I wish I spoke German. Looked like some drop. So this is some German drop, huh? Alright, let's just get to it, man. Y'all see, this is a good time for us. Because there's so many avenues here. Alright. The political aspect of the legend again came forward in the 13th century. In November 1219, Demetia was conquered by the Crusaders. In the spring of 1221, the report was circulated among the victors that in the east, King David, either the son or nephew of the presbyter, King David, either the son or... Now, we're doing independent research, so we got an independent link over here. So that King David's either the son or nephew of Prester John. This Prester John has a son named King David. So are we fools to say that this son, Exilarch David Soslan of Babylon during the Babylonian exile, and if it's matching up right here, are we saying that we're matching up this Babylonian exile as recent as the 1200s? Are we putting this together, my people? Do you understand the value and the weight of this information? Look how we're putting, praise the Most High, hey, Raja Hiraja Chola, Jadaran, Emperor of Soli, Prester John Pani, and all this, man. Praise the Most High for this drop. On Raja Hiraja, Jadaran, because he has a son named Exilarch David Soslan of Babylon and Georgia. And we don't have to go far to understand that Exilarchs are leaders of Jews, Israelites of the Babylonian exile. Specifically of the Babylonian exile. Of the Babylonian exile. Babylonian and the Assyrian exile happened recently, it looks like, because the exilarchs of that time, those that were leading the Jews of the Babylonian exile, these guys, he's the son of Prester John. Whoa. So we're putting the Babylonian exile and the sons of Prester John, who is the leader, the king, during this Babylonian exile, named King David, who's the son of Prester John, just like we're getting separately over here. This occurred in 1222, and many expected that King David and his hosts would offer their support to the long-awaited army of Frederick II. So they were hoping to get support from King David in 1222. Now you read the letters of King David and all that drop. But this David is the son of another David Lebna Dangle DeWitt the first, which means that this son is, I mean, you know, we're trying to put this together. But we're at 1200s, 13th century in the Babylonian exile. Let's back it up. In the spring of 1221, the report was circulated among the victors that in the east, King David, either the son, or nephew, of Prester John, had placed himself at the head of 3 powerful armies. Whoa. And was moving upon the Mohammedan countries. He was whooping Muslim Mohammedan ass. And the Christians were trying to recruit him, which means that he was against both hijacks, Christians and Muslims. None of them had to drop. The Christians had to try to recruit him in history by labeling him a Nestorian Christian. But we researched Nestor, it only goes back to the etymology of an old king who was renowned for wise counsel. And now we're getting back to Solomon and David. You see the cycle. You see the repeated history in time. Let's see how deep this shit goes. Watch this. This occurred, alright? So Frederick II thought they were going to get some help. King David is no other... okay, I mean, let's just go there. Let's just go there. The enthusiasm that this announcement created in the camp of Demetia led to a premature outbreak of the Franks against Cairo and the defeat. Alright. So now we got the Franks going against Cairo because they think they got some help from this King David, who's not a Christian, but an Israelite. And the defeat of the army. The historical germ is easily discovered. The historical germ is easily discovered. The historical germ is easily discovered. King David, listen up. Everybody, stop what you're doing and listen up. What is this particular researcher saying? King David is no other than the Mongolian conqueror Genghis Khan. I know. You said, drop, man. Did you just call King David Prester John? And then you called him Genghis Khan? Genghis Chan? King David is Genghis Khan? What you talking about, man? Look, man, I told y'all I was gonna think I'm crazy. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm asking you to look this up. This occurred in 1222, and as many expected, King David and his hosts would offer their support to the long-awaited. Alright, so they hope for support. King David is no other than the Mongolian conqueror Genghis Khan, who at this time, with 3 legions, pushed forward towards the west, and in a most sanguinary battle, annihilated the power of Islam in Central Asia. He and many of his successors were favorable to the Christians, so they tried to recruit them because they were whooping up on the Mohammedans. Now listen, the Mongol kingdom also surpassed all Asiatic principalities by its display. But the name David given to the Eastern conqueror still remains unexplained. Well, yeah, because it's been projected in phantom history. And all these stories seem to have been dropped on top of each other. And it gets on and it gets even deeper. We're going to get into this, but in case y'all think I'm fucking out of my mind, I mean, let's just put it all out there. We got Prester John. He's been called Togrul Ong Khan. He's now being called Genghis Khan. King David, Raja Haraja Chola, Mansa Musa, Montezuma, Lebna Dango DeWitt. I'm not saying these are all exactly the same people, but all these seem to sound very similar. This Montezuma and Mansa Musa, we already started connecting these similarities. Now, they've given us different versions of this Montezuma. We're getting different versions. But there's Musas and the Musa, according to, man, I wish I had that DACA, but it was breaking down different etymologies. But the Musa was breaking down to Moses. Moses was breaking down to Musa. Musa, Moses, Moses, Musa. Montezuma, Mabna Dangle, Prester David, Prester John, Hong Kong, King Davis, Genghis Khan. All these people whooping ass against the Mohammedans. And then you had the wild card where they're always calling the Mongols, but they're not really giving clear, you're not really clearly understanding who these people really are. Then you're looking like, oh, some Chinese, Asian thing. But then these people are jacking titles of this and titles of this, and everyone's been jacking these titles of the original Asiatics and these people that are connected here and there. Alright. In case y'all think I'm crazy. Because I know you do. I know you do. Let's get it. We're going to get it from the top. I know this is part 12. We've seen, I kept coming back here, but now that we got more drop, I want to get it from the top. And I want you to listen closely as we get it from the top. And we're going to tie this history of Rome. We're going to tie some history of Alexander as we go in this. Where we go? Alexander. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're going to tie some history of Alexander, man. We're going to go right into the romance of Alexander and the origin of the circulation of his Hebrew letters in Europe, India, or Ethiopia. Prester John. Don't get me started with this Alexander. And remember, man, we was back in the land of Prester John, man. Love to Uno, man, for this wonderful link. And before I get back into this, he visited Jeddah while he was about it, the Mecca and Medina, thence to Tor, and after down to Zelia, where he plunged inland and up the mountains. As it is so, in 1494, he reached the court of Prester John. Alright, so we got Prester John. Remember, this is a title, so we're just talking about the line of David, these King Davids. So every time we see Prester John, if we follow this theory that, by part 12, we can we can start to kind of get a theory about this. If this Prester John is King David or the line of King David, either way is very significant. But is he the King David or a king ruling in that name? In his namesake? In his ancestry? Alexander, Lion of Judah, King of Kings. What? Alexander, Lion of Judah, King of Kings. Huh? Alexander, Lion of Judah, King of Kings, received the foreigners with open arms. So they're calling him Alexander here. And I said, why would they call him Alexander? Why would they call Prester John Alexander? Are we also linking Prester John? You see where we going, man? It's dropped crazy. Is dropped out of his gourd. Is he out of his mind? Are we linking Prester John with Alexander? Prester John, the romance of Alexander. I mean, this person, this scholar thinks so. I mean, they got the fighting with elephants. They're linking that up with the cannibals and the Amazons and the rivers that flow from Eden and people from Alexander sealed in the mountains, the pygmies, fountain of youth. How Alexander supposed to have the Holy Grail Fountain of Youth. Prester John got the Holy Grail Fountain of Youth. King Solomon got the, Is it all one thing? Is it all one thing? I mean, I never would have linked Alexander to Prester John, but somebody linked Alexander to Prester John. Lion of Judah, King of Kings. What has happened to our time and our timelines? Matter of fact, we're going to start with this one, and then we're going to go back to this one. And yeah, you know what I mean? Let's start right here, man. And, you know, I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to let it rock. Matter of fact, audible. I know what I want to do. Audible. We're going to start with this because, trust me, there's a method to the madness. I ain't crazy. Parallel timelines in history from the top. Listen to every word and let's line this shit up. Let's go.
It's really difficult to use the paleography to verify the chronology. Although people use it then to make comparisons. We have an obvious circular argument here. What you need to always bear in mind is how things get dated, particularly in ancient times. I mean, in modern times, we know to some extent how things get dated. But imagine you're a historian, okay, from, say, 300 AD or 500 AD, possibly even 1200 AD or later. First of all, it's not entirely clear that your intention in writing history is the same as the intention of a modern historian, namely to give a faithful...
Big point. Intention is everything. So what's the intention of those in the 12th and 13th and 14th century other than conquering everything that belongs to you, so-called Negro? So the intention is all fucked up. So you're getting his story from the intention of that which invaded you, and they hid your history and your nobility, and you never heard of Prester John.
Chronicle of events. We cannot take this for granted at all. As a matter of fact, it's a fair assumption that many ancient writings had a sort of moralistic purpose. They were much more in keeping with, like Roman histories was showing, the grandeur of certain figures, giving uplifting accounts and so forth. This is very, very important because the results that we're talking about are, in some cases, are going to look and seem so preposterous to you that you will be very tempted to just turn your mind off or turn your back to the whole thing. And what Elle and I are above all trying to do is not make you throw out the data. You may discard Flamenco's interpretation of the data, you may discard the interpretations that we have of the data, but you shouldn't throw out the data. In my opinion, the data is incontrovertible. You see on the right-hand side, this is the Roman Empire from 82 BC to the 3rd century AD. On the left-hand side, we have the Roman Empire from the 3rd century through the 6th century AD. And we are writing the Roman emperors in the order in which they occur according to the chronicles, according to the histories, even according to modern history. To read the diagram, the spaces, say, from here to here, represent the length of reign of that emperor. So, in other words, here's 41 years, a long reign. This diagram is supposed to show a kind of symmetry between a period of time in which you have a sequence of Roman rulers, and then a period of time more than 300 years later in which you have another sequence of Roman emperors. Now, let's start here with Augustus. Okay, he reigns for 41 years, and Constantine the Great Augustus reigns for 31 years. And you say, well, big deal, I agree, that's 10 years difference. But follow what happens after here. You have Tiberius compared to Constantius II, 23 and 24. When we come to Caligula, it's 4 years and 2 years. Caligula is paired to Julian the Apostate. Then we have Claudius, 13 years, and Valentinian, 11 years, and so forth. Now, so you understand the principle behind the figure. It is meant to show the symmetry between lengths of reign of emperors who are understood to have reigned more than 300 years apart. Toward the end of this period in Roman history, we have a sequence of 4 emperors who all reigned for less than 1 year. Okay, they were died or they got off by the legions or whatever it was. And that's paired by a sequence of rulers who all reigned less than 1 year on the other side. Okay, very, very conspicuous. Now, the other thing that's interesting is this period, sort of in Roman history, ends with an invasion by the Goths, where you have Caracalla. I oddly enough, exactly on the other side, you have a second, let's put it this way, quote unquote, second invasion of the Goths. Okay, on the left we have the Roman Empire from the 1st century BC to the 3rd century AD. Then we have the Holy Roman Empire from the 10th century to the 13th century. In other words, on the left here we have largely the same people who are that we had on the right-hand side in the previous one, but now they're being compared to rulers of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, basically about 1,050 years later. And you see that we have another symmetry. Okay, this is how it's reported. But remember, we have to bracket almost everything of this kind over here, because we don't know what the veracity of the chronicles is, what the intention of the chronicles was, or even what the people really understood by it.
I don't think anybody is in any position, really, to make a hypothesis. You get a million ideas occurring to you when you really look into this. Many people that I talk to, they want to get a hypothesis, they want to go off and run with it, to the exclusion of everything else before they understand anything about really what's going on. And I think that people have no business making hypotheses about this until they really understand the extent and the depth and the weight of what he has done. I mean, any really nailed down hypothesis. Obviously lots of crazy ideas are going to occur to you, but because they occur to me all the time. And I try to follow them out as much as I can. But we are not making hypotheses here because really we're not in a position to.
Remember the little pattern up here? Okay, where we have a little block of history here, and then we shift it back and so forth. Flamenco's opinion is the only legitimate history. Now, this doesn't mean that nothing happened before this. The only history that our documents address themselves to is from the period of 300 AD up to modern times. Everything else is a projection of that material, that historical material, back in time due to the errors that scholars made in trying to synchronize relative blocks of history. And remember, there are three shifts, and one's 333 years, one is 1,053 years, and the other one is 1,778 years. He has an account of each one of these and how these could have happened historically to produce those shifts. But his is what we might call one radical interpretation. Now, before you say this guy's out of his mind, what Flamenco does, given a pair of duplicates, what Flamenco does is says, well, can we establish astronomically which one is valid? So, take, for example, Thucydides' Peloponnesian Wars. There are three eclipses mentioned in the Peloponnesian Wars, and they're described with great fullness. There's a lunar eclipse, an annular solar eclipse, and another lunar eclipse. You can infer what the path of totality was, and the whole deal from these descriptions. The creators of modern chronology, namely Scaliger and Petavius, trying to astronomically solve the problem of those eclipses, were not able to do it without leaving out some of the data provided by Thucydides, who, by the way, says he was a witness of this. So what Flamenco did, he said, let's make no presuppositions about this. Where are the exact astronomical solutions for
Anatoly? So now we're tying it together. The Flamenco he's talking about is the Anatoly that we dropped in the part one of the timelines and parallel history. The whole timeline, true chronology, ancient knowledge drop. So look out for part two. So we're going to have multiple series. I'm going to do a wonderful dismount as we transition into our situation over there at 432, man. So while we're here, we're going to go real hard and strong, man. Hang in there. Surf this with us, man. So we're just talking about Anatoly. Let's go.
This triad of eclipses. And there turns out to be one in the 11th century AD and one in the 12th century AD, and no others. So what Flamenco does quite regularly is he will appeal to astronomical arguments to try to determine which is the principal one, and his conclusion, and however crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on. From 300 on, we got like statuary documents and things like that.
So you heard it right. Most of it from the 900s on. One more time.
However crazy it may sound, is extraordinarily well argued, is that the only legitimate history is the modern history from about 300 on, and most of that, by the way, is from 900 on. From 300 on, we got like statuary documents and things like that.
He thinks most of the things that we think of as historical events really did happen, but the question is when and where, and maybe, of course, how many times. And he thinks, well, it didn't happen 10 times, it only happened once. And most of that stuff happened after 900.
Yeah, by the way, and it's something that we had to find out more about.
After 900s, all right? So let's jump to there from there to there. Let's go. So now we're talking about the same Fomenko, Anatoly. See how we're linking this up? Let's go. Hey. So he decided to find out how the world really looks as a story. To this end, he achieved a tremendous feat. What did Anatoly accomplish?
Решил разобраться в том, как действительно выглядит мировая история. Для этого он проделал колоссальную работу. Исследовал сотни старинных текстов.
He studied hundreds of ancient texts, tables, records, books, reviewed the ancient and medieval history of Europe, Egypt, Middle East, and the Mediterranean.
Летописи, хроники. Проанализировал древнюю и средневековую историю Европы, Египта, Ближнего Востока, Средиземноморья. Он изучил...
He studied most of the documents which describe the major events of human history which allegedly occurred over the course of 6,000 years. Allegedly. So we've been stretched out in this timeline. Oh, that was 6,000 years ago. Oh, the Sumerian this. The Egyptian this. 12,000, 14 million years ago. From 4,000 BC to 2000 AD. Alright. You know you can't carbon date anything saying it before 2000 BC. Can't no carbon date. You already know that shit, man. You already know. So, 4000 BC.
Большую часть документов, которые описывают основные события человеческой истории, происходившие на протяжении 6000 лет, от 4000 года до нашей эры до 1900 года нашей эры. Чтобы представлять всю эту...
To provide all this information visually, Anatoly Fomenko made a document for which there had been no precedent. He worked on it for 6 years, so 6 years of research.
Информацию наглядно Анатолий Фоменко составил документ, аналогов которому еще не было. Ученый работал над ним в течение 6 лет. Все собранные сведения он
All the
изобразил...
information collected, he depicted on a large chronological scale, elongated along the horizontal time axis. All right, so I'm getting this. I'm reading this for those that have trouble reading. You know what I'm saying? Might have eye problems. You know what I mean? And we got a few people out there with eye problems, so I do my best to read as much. And those that are at work, they might have the earphones in. They can't really see the screen. So I'm thinking about y'all, Drop Nation. Let's go.
В виде большой хронологической шкалы, вытянутой по горизонтальной оси времени. На ней были указаны именно...
It consisted of the precise dates on which the founders of our traditional version of history insisted, Scaliger and Petavius. So this consisted of the precise dates. So these are the documents they're studying.
Основатели традиционной исторической версии.
Watch this shit.
Сначала
First, maps were drawn on a graph paper, then scanned images were transferred to a special material.
на миллиметровой бумаге.
This is just the method. We're just talking about this scientific method.
Специальный материал. Этот уникальный документ.
This unique method affects its size. The length of the map is 19 meters, and it was the first to geographically depict the history that is taught in schools and universities. So they put this map that's 19 meters. This is how long they stretched your history out. Now watch what he does with this long, elongated stretch of history.
Поражает своими размерами. Длина карты составляет 19 метров. Так впервые было создано графическое изображение истории, которую изучают в школах и университетах.
This map contained tens of thousands of names, several thousand dates, information about a disturbance. The main books of the original sources. What disturbance? What's going on?
Имен, много тысяч дат, информация о смутах, о главных книгах, о первоисточниках.
The chronicles of their dating, the author chronicles, the author occurrences in astronomy, and so on.
Летописях, об их датировках, об авторах летописей, о хронистах, об астрономах и тому подобное. Потом,
Then this material was evaluated using the techniques developed by me and my colleagues.
материалу были применены
Some peer reviews, some evaluations.
моими коллегами методики.
которых я
What happened, man?
И я отметил на это...
And I noted on this map where there were duplicates. Now you just heard it, all right, from the other chronographers studying the maps, and they're breaking down chronology. That is, periods that were shown to be similar by these methods. So we have duplicates, is what we're saying. Genghis Khan, Prester John, Raja Haraja, King David, Alexander the Great. What are we saying, Master Musa? What are we saying, Montezuma?
Карты дубликаты. То есть те эпохи, которые оказывались по этим методикам близкими, похожими, зависимыми.
Как это было сделано?
How was this done? Anatoly Fomenko divided the history of the world at certain points. Then every era's detail was displayed on the time axis. Pay attention.
Анатолий Фоменко разделил всю мировую историю на эпохи. Затем каждую эпоху подробно отобразил на оси времени.
Periods which had similarities were moved to be simultaneous on the time scale. Pay attention.
События, которые происходили одновременно в разных государствах, изображались друг над другом, чтобы показать, сколько в традиционной...
To show how much overlap there is in the traditional chronology of the historical events, Fomenko assigned each time interval a letter.
В истории существует повторов исторических событий, разным временным интервалом Фоменко присвоил разные буквы. Например, эпоха...
For example, the era of the Second Roman Empire, just like you just got from the other chronographers, breaking it down, was marked by the letter K. The same letter was used to mark its duplicates Fomenko had discovered.
Римской империи была обозначена буквой К. Этой же буквой были отмечены все ее дубликаты, которые Фоменко обнаружил с помощью своих методов. Другие исторические...
Other historical periods, as well as their duplicates, were identified by the letters. For example, C and P were also marked on a map.
А также их дубликаты были обозначены другими буквами, например, S и P, и также были отмечены на карте. Так возникла структура.
So a structure emerges that shows both the time axis and repetitions of historical events. This map was named Global Chronological Map.
Как на оси времени расположены повторы исторических событий. Эта карта получила название глобальной хронологической карты. Именно она показывает...
That is, it shows what should be the true chronology of historical events. So we're teaching you, my people. They call us Negroes. They call us Indians. They call us Black and African Americans. We're told we're not from here. We don't know our place. What's our place? What's the true chronology of historical events? Whose history are we learning? It became apparent that in the traditional chronology, there are three major time shifts. This is what we're talking. This is what I'm saying. There are three major time shifts by approximately 300 years, 1,000 years, and 1,800 years. Shifts of time, projections, duplicates, phantoms. Wake up, people.
В традиционной истории существует три основных временных сдвига. Примерно на 300, 1000 и 1800 лет. И многие реальные исторические события...
And lots of real historical events of the so-called Middle Ages were copied on paper by so-called medieval chroniclers and sent into the past, man. Now, I know we got this before, but we got to repeat this shit because we've been repeated on with lies. So we got to repeat the real spiel. And lots of real historical events of the Middle Ages were copied on paper by medieval chroniclers. So we're talking about, what, the medieval times, 1100s, 1200s, 1300s. Those people copied this on paper and sent the real history into the past. Lots of real historical events. The real history of the Middle Ages were copied on paper by medieval chroniclers and sent into the past. Focus. Get out the illusion.
И отправлены в прошлое.
How could this happen if the chroniclers of the Middle Ages made unintentional mistakes? All right. Now, let me skip ahead a little bit. I'm just going to let it
Это
play.
могло произойти, если хронисты средних веков допустили ошибку непреднамеренно. Возьмем 4 старинные
Take
лета.
the 4 ancient chronicles. They
Все
all
они
describe the
описывают
same
одни и
events
те
that
же
occurred, for
события,
example,
которые
in Europe in
происходили,
the
например, в
1400s.
Европе в 15 веке. Но дело в том,
But the
что
authors of these
авторы этих
chroniclers
лет
were living not
жили не
only in
только
different
в
countries,
разных
but even at
странах,
different times.
но
They
даже
spoke
в
and wrote in
разное
different
время.
languages and used a different
Они
calendar.
говорили и писали на разных языках, использовали разные летоисчисления.
Not surprisingly, in
Неудивительно, что
telling you of the
рассказывая об одном
same
и том же
king.
короле, городе.
Whoa. So we got Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, all these kings, Raja Hiraja, Chola, Jaradan, King David, Prester John, all these priests, King, Mansa, Musa, Montes, all these kings, not surprisingly, in telling of the same king, city, or battle, they gave them totally different names. Body bag for the illusion. Not surprisingly, in telling you of the same king, Genghis Khan, King David, Genghis Khan, city or battle, they gave them totally different names, man.
И сражения, они давали им совершенно разные названия. Поэтому, когда хронисты 16-17 веков
Therefore, chroniclers in the 15 and 1600s read these accounts, they decided that they were talking about very different eras. Because they're trying to chronicle this stuff in the 15 and 1600s, the 17th century, and they assumed they were talking about different eras, or did they know that that was the hoax of history? That let's just give them the same thing, but let's put it back in time shifts, 300, 1000, 1800.
читали эти летописи, они решили, что речь идет о 4 совершенно разных эпохах. И вместо того, чтобы поместить эти летописи
And instead of putting these accounts simultaneously on the time axis, they arranged them in sequence, that is, one after another.
Одну летопись они оставили в 15.
Oh my goodness. I had to get this again. I had to. Because it's absolutely relevant to this investigation of Prester John. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't the jury say? They left one chronicle in the 1400s. Oh, we got Prester John all over that. A second, they pushed back 300 years. So now we could look to the 1100s. A third, so we got, man. And that's why this stuff's popping up in the 1400s and the 1100s. A third back 1,000 years, and a fourth back 1,800 years. These are all the same story of the same king. They might have been written in different languages and a different, whatever, called different names and titles and put back. So they left one in the 1400s. That's the real one. This one here in the 1400s is the drop. But then they projected the history of the same situation back.
Вторую отодвинули назад на 300 лет, третью назад на 1000 лет, а четвертую на 1800 лет. Соединили их вместе, и получилась очень длинная хронология.
Только с помощью метода статистической математики.
So only with the help of mathematical statistics can we have a truly objective analysis of old texts. Without them, unfortunately, it is impossible to construct a chronology. So don't let people fool you and come to you with BS and jargon and talking about chronology and timelines. You let them know that there are truer chronologies and that there are projections and phantoms. And when we come back here and we talking about, King David, either the son or nephew of Prester. King David had placed himself the head of 3 powerful armies. And then they said, King David is no other than the Mongolian conqueror Genghis Khan. Some spell it with a C, some with a K. King David murdering both of All right, man. The horrible slaughter committed by the Mongols soon. Now, who they're calling Mongols, remember, King David is no other than the Mongolian conqueror. So when we say Mongols, we're now talking about Israelites, which makes sense because now we're talking about savages, which makes sense because they always call you savages, so-called Negro. They always call you crazy. Look how they painted the Mongol. Look how they painted the Aztec. And look how they paint the Negro. Look at the savagery of the Negro that they paint in the media and movies and all that shit. So it's the same trick. King David is no other than the Mongolian conqueror, Genghis Khan, who at this time, with 3 legions, pushed forward towards the west. All right. And in the most sanguinary battle, annihilated the power of Islam. In Central Asia, he was taking out the Persia, Medes, all that. He and many of his successors were favorable to the Christians because they were whipping up on Islam. And averse to the Mohammedans, the Mongol kingdom also surpassed all Asiatic principalities. So when your dumb Diversas 1452 says subjugate these kingdoms, the principalities, the dukes and Dutch, all that shit, they're talking about the kingdom of King David. When Columbus says, I'm coming to America to seize the holy city, he's talking about the kingdom. The kingdom. Everybody wants the keys, the keys. I got the keys, the keys, the keys. Everybody wants the keys to the kingdom. All right, we're going to get ready for hopefully one of the best dismounts we ever made, man. One of the best dismounts we ever made. I'm updating the library, you know, with a nice slow pace, man. Just put 4 new downloadable PDFs for you in the library of the drop, which we call the drop library. You already know. And again, I have to get it like it's your first time. I gotta love you like it's the first time, baby. When I say Columbus came here for the holy city, among the earliest and most fascinating witnesses to the latter is a manuscript of 84 folios dated between September 13th, 1501. This is when Columbus did this, right? So we got the 1400s, the takedown of King David, Prester John, the Great Khan, March 23rd, and now preserved in the Biblioteca Columbina in Seville. It begins. This is the book. It's the beginning of the book or collections of authoritates, sayings, these authorities, sayings, opinions, and prophecies concerning the need to recover the holy city. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, Columbus. What do you mean? You're coming to here. This is where you're coming? You're going to discover America in 1501? So we're always talking about America. You mean prophecies concerning the need to recover the holy city and Mount Zion, Columbus? And discovery and conversion of the islands of the Indies, the 3 Indias? Prester John of the 3 Indias? And of all peoples and nations, Columbus? For Ferdinand and Isabella, our Spanish rulers, Columbus? Then it says this manuscript, commonly known as El Libro de la Profecías, the Book of Prophecies, was compiled by Christopher Columbus himself in the Biblioteca de Colombina in Seville, Spain. Is this play? And now we're being called this Mongol, this King David is no other than the Mongolian conqueror, Genghis Khan. I mean, that's really all the drop right there. I mean, from there we can peel back all the layers of this parallel timelines. We can get into the Anatoles and the Flamencos. And when we get back here and we read this again in the land of Prester John, he visited Jeddah while he was talking about in Mecca, Medina. And at last, in 1494, all right, so we just read in 1501. September 13th, 1501. They're taking down the islands of the Indy, Prester John of the three Indias. Let's get back to the land of Prester John. And so at last, 1494, he reached the court of Prester John. Alexander, Lion of Judah, King of Kings, Alexander. So let's get into this Alexander. Let's make a dismount. I'm going to get it from right here. Apparently the confusion persists as a result of the fact that both in India and Ethiopia, Abyssinia, Eastern Christians lived in their own kingdom surrounded by pagans. And in this, it is not enough to confuse any medieval man whose geographical knowledge was limited anyhow. There is another fact that adds to the confusion. The letters of Prester John tell about black priest. Black priest, Prester John, black priest, King David, black priest king, King Solomon, black priest king. For example, about the Jews, as we heard all the time from the black priests who had come and are coming daily. Any layman might associate these black priests with Africa. Oh shit, here we go with a dismount. Any layman might associate these black priests with Africa without knowing that a major part of the population in southern India is black. Since Christians live there, it would not be unreasonable to assume that black priests live there as well. It should be kept in mind that the Jewish community in Cochin on the coast of Malabar was divided into white and black Jews. Here are a few reasons why Prester John was searched for in Africa, though, as claimed above, a careful reading of the text reveals that the search should have been made in India, not Africa, which India? We are also in the three Indias, right? So now we're at which India, which even in medieval Europe could have been known. However, in the Middle Ages, it was not known where Prester John lived, and adventurers went looking for him. In the 13th century, Marco Polo identified Prester John with the Khan. So Marco Polo identified Prester John with the Khan, the great Khan of Harriet, a tribe in Mongolia. Hold up, man. We got it up already. Gotta get this. All right. Oh man, there's so much drop in this Rudolph Sanders book, Lost Tribes. It's impossible not to go to it every time. This is what we started with, so we got to keep going back to it because this is one of the major veins, in the arteries of this thing that we're surfing here. So let's get it right here in chapter 8. So much drop. I don't want to stop. Got to make a dismount. Alright, so we just heard about this Marco Polo. We just read about this Marco Polo. In In the 13th century, Marco Polo identified Prester John with the Khan of Koreate. We got to get this Koreate, a tribe in Mongolia. So there's a certain tribe in Mongolia they're calling Kerait, K-E-R-E-I-T. Now we go here in Lost Tribes and Promised Land. We're talking about Columbus. Let's get it bigger. All right. One of the purposes of the voyage, Columbus, he specifically brought this interpreter. One of the purposes of the voyage, as we have seen, was to find the great Khan, Prester John. But look how he splits them up. And Torres was to be the mouthpiece for this encounter, presumably on the basis of his Hebrew. On the basis of Torres speaking Hebrew, he was to be the mouthpiece for this encounter, presumably on the basis of his Hebrew. Perhaps Columbus and his supporters had decided that the great Khan, reported on by Marco Polo and others, might be the Israelite king who dwelt across the river from Prester John. Now they're splitting them up, but he also is an Israelite king, King David. So is this all the same person? Is the great Khan the Israelite king, Prester John? From the tribe, this Mongolian tribe of Kerait. We gotta get into that, all right? Which was then Nestorian Christian. So they went back to Nestor. Others continued searching for him in China. So all the Asiatics that were there first. In the 15th century, the Portuguese looked for Prester John all over Africa, when others were sure that the legendary king was living in Ethiopia. In the middle of the 16th century, the king of Ethiopia was nicknamed Prester John by the Europeans, and it should be noted that the descriptions of the search of Prester John reads like a detective story. Is this not a detective story? Are we not Sherlock Holmes on his ass of Prester John in part 12? Apparently, in the 17th century, after the Europeans had learned there was no one by the name of Prester John living in Ethiopia, the story was abandoned and considered a legend. Then they just said it's a myth until the beginning of the historical research in the 19th century. So they just picked this back up in the 1800s, Negro. Whatever the facts were, it's important to stress that according to the Hebrew letters of Prester John, focus. Whatever the facts were, it is important to stress that according to the Hebrew letters of Prester John, there is no doubt that he lived in India. The three Indias. We're connecting this India here. If it was not known until then, probably because experts in the subject concentrating on retracing the medieval search for Prester John thus disregarded the geographical facts appearing in the letters, failing to analyze the Hebrew letters with the necessary care. Remember, this Vaunic manuscript, which is said to be written in the Hebreo-Indianized, right? Hebreo-Indianized. Hebreo-Indianized. Hebreo-Indianized, right? That's what they're telling you that this writing is. That's what they're telling you that this writing is, a Hebreo-Indianized. Alright? And remember, this is the undecipherable. No one can decipher this thing. No one can decipher this. Is this Hebreo-Indianized? Alright, so this is the Vaunic manuscript. We got some of that. The Israelite king, Great Khan, reported on by Marco Polo. Whatever the facts were, it is important to stress that according to the Hebrew letters of Prester John, there is no doubt that he lived in India. It is not known until then, probably because experts of the subject concentrated on retracing the medieval search for Prester John, thus disregarding the geographical facts. According to the letters, failing to analyze the Hebrew letters with necessary care, the romance of Alexander and Prester John, one of the sub-subjects in the study of the letters of Prester John is their relationship with the romance of Alexander, the story of Alexander the Great. The story of the adventures and conquests of Alexander the Great was well known in Hellenistic times. It is important to mention here that the story had several Hebrew adaptations and translations that were widespread among medieval Jews. So there were Hebrew adaptations, Israelite adaptations to this Alexander. Some have already connected this Alexander to being an Israelite. And now we're saying, is this Alexander also Prester John? Remember, he was just called Alexander. Lion of Judah, King of Kings, in a separate source by Elaine Sakyu, the land of Prester John. Man, alright. However, the point is to the story, alright. However, the point is that to the story is that the letters of Prester John had several motifs in common and the resemblance that reflects some kind of relationship, though partial, needs to be dealt with. So we're now connecting a relationship in the timelines of these kings are now being connected in the timelines. And look how they're connecting these parallels. Here are a few parallels between both stories. So I'll leave this link and we're going to get into this connection between Prester John, Alexander the Great. We'll get back on this, man. It's going to be a 34-part series, The Travel of Sir John Mandeville. Remember, he's called Raja Chola. Now, this person is 1166, 1178, same time, 12th century, reigned as Chola, king succeeding Raja Chola II, according to historian. All right, Raja was not the direct descendant of Raja Chola, but the son of his sister, Raja Chola II, who's Raja as his heir, 1166. So she chose Raja as her heir, 1166. As he did not have any sons of his own. So this is a story of the dispute of the Pandya country led to the intervention of the Chola and the Sinhalese rulers on opposite sides, which brought misery to both. So here's two kingdoms going against each other. One of these Cholas and these Pandyans. Then you got the Pandya Civil War. And I ask you if this is play. Have you read about the Pandya Civil War? And why are they calling Prester John Raja, King David, the Israelite king, a Pandyan? Which means, are you a Pandyan, so-called Negro? After the conquest of the Pandyan country of Kulutunga, Chola I conquered it. So all these conquerors and these Christians are scared shitless. And it seems like the same people they're scared of is always you. The local Pandyan princes were allowed to rule as they liked, subject to the vague suzerainty of the Cholas. So we're going to get into the Cholas. I just want to introduce you to it. Who we're calling the Cholas, who we're calling the Pandyans. The Pandyan dynasty was an ancient Tamil dynasty. So get into the Tamils, one of the three Tamil dynasties, and the other being the Chola and the Chera. Chola and Chera, the Pandyan king, along the Chera king and the Chola king, were referred to as the three crowned kings. The three magi. Are these three crowned kings the same as the three magi? Related to Prester John. And is this why they're calling him the Pandyan, Prester John, Raja Chola II? Who's the Emperor of Soli, father of Solomon, and the Exarch David. And Exarch is just the leader of the Jews during the Babylonian exile. And then we have a whole list of these exarchs that we're going to get back to. We're going to get back to this king Vadameredeg. Man, love to everybody sending these great drops, man. Prester John relates that at other times we sent you an embassy and we did not receive an answer, and more importantly refers to himself as your brother King Vadomaredeg, son of the most excellent king of Ethiopia, Abyssinia. Here's another name, King Vadomaredeg, alright? Oh man, what a beautiful dismount. What a beautiful myth. And just in case you thought we was just tripping and slipping with this Mansa Musa, remember, Catalan's depiction of Mansa Musa seems strangely to coincide and resonate with the 14th century wish for an African Prester John. So they connected this Mansa Musa with this wish for an African. They wished him to be from Africa, but he is the emperor of the three Indias. And here's the source here, the emperor of magic, empire of magic, magi, empire of magic, magi. What are we saying? What are we saying? I mean, at the end of the day, just remember, we're only talking about Prester John. I said we're only talking about Prester John. I mean, if we're only talking about Prester John, then it got to make sense. We can't go too far off and too far wrong if we're only talking about Prester John or Alexander or the Lion of Judah, the King of Kings. What are we saying, man? So, let's just make a dismount. Hope you guys are surfing the wave. I just added the land of Prester John is right here in the library. The OSB is right here in the library. The short history of Christian missions, Abraham to Paul, is right here in the library. The Vonic manuscript is right here in the library. If you can decipher it, I'll give you $5. $5 make you holla. $5 on mine, man. So love to everybody, man. We'll be back, man, for that part 13 and part 2 of the Ancient Knowledge series as well. Remember, Columbus came here to discover the holy city of Mount Zion and discovery and conversion of the islands of the Indies. You, my so-called Negro. He took Jerusalem from you in the 1500s, 1400s. These things have been repeated on you. So who's the joke of the party? Who's it going to be? Who's the fool? Who's going to play the fool? Not us, man. Not Drop Nation, man. Love to October Scorpio. Yo, man, right quick, man. Love to the family, man. Don't all snap me, man. Oh, they're gonna all snap me. Gotta get it back. Love to the family, man. Tiana and Chris Battle. They just went, just connecting with their indigenous roots, man. They took a trip. What they said, they took it to, I forgot how to say it, but I know it's in Oklahoma. And they just gave us a quick picture, man, just to see what time it is, man. And how beautiful is this, man? Love to the family. They out there connecting to the indigenous roots. They just took a trip. They were going to connect to J Stu, but they're going to do it on the next time. But you see my brother Chris and my sister Ty, man, rocking the drop. You see their beautiful, beautiful family, man. So love to the family. Love the Drop Nation, man. Connecting to your roots, man. Getting to the root of it all. Love to you guys, man. And thank you so much for keeping us plugged in, letting us know what time it is and who got the drop, man. And let's get to this October Scorpio. Make our dismount. Hey. Say up. Suit up. Choose up.
What's going on to everybody putting that indigenous truth out there?
And this brother, man, subscribe, man. He's a truck driver, man. Been putting in that work on the road, taking these pictures himself. So look at these stills of these tree stumps. Look at the indigenous truth.
Since I made a video.
Sacred trees.
Just wanted to share some pictures with you of some tree stumps. And then I'm going to let a video play that I came across tonight. Saw it on the Facebook page. 1828 definition of American. It's a Facebook page that's dedicated to the indigenous truth. Alright. It's a video that was put on there by, I think the author is A.B. the Legend. Alright.
Please, check that out. Check it out.
I'm just going to let it play. I think it's about 35, 40 minutes long or something like that. A lot of you know the information. A lot of you don't. As King Drop says, there's plenty of babies in the bathwater. Don't throw them out.
There you go.
Get the babies out the bathwater. A lot of you have some puzzle pieces. Watching this video may give you some more pieces so you can put your puzzle pieces together and make a bigger picture. A lot of you may not agree with some of the information. It's totally up to you. Again, I'm just passing the information along. That's all it is. But let me start off with these pictures, and I'll go ahead and let the video play. And then, again, all praise and glory to the Most High here. I want to thank everybody for what you do. Thank you for putting in your time, effort, and energy. And as always, as I like to say, may the Most High bless you, your households, your path, and everything that you do. Hey. All right, so let's see. Originally, when I came across that information, no forest on flat earth, courtesy of King Drop, I did a video called Mountains or Stumps, and I posted it on my YouTube channel. And, at that time I was using my iPhone and my iPad, and, I just was not satisfied with the visually because, not knocking the iPhone and iPad, they're good for what they are, but, bringing this type of information, man, to really get, they were not doing this stuff any justice. So I went out and bought me a decent DSLR, got some decent lenses, so I can bring you better visuals and better clarity, crisp clarity, and so on and so forth. But anyways, this tree stump here, we've been taught they're mountains, but clearly, just looking at it, this is in the state of New Mexico, in Tucumcari, New Mexico, Interstate 40, east or west, exit 333. All right. Now, originally, when I did the video, I showed you a front view. I was at a truck stop across the street from this, at exit 333, and I showed you the front view of it. But this is about 5 miles away from that exit. I stopped on the side of the road and zoomed in and got this picture, so you can really see how massive this thing is, this tree stump is. All right. Again, that's Interstate 40. I was heading west at the time. Tucumcari, New Mexico. Exit 333.
Bang.
All right. Now, that's the same tree stump. Okay. You can see that little bitty car, but you can get an idea how huge that thing is. Again, I'm 5 miles away from the exit. All right. All right. Now, when I originally posted this in that video, this one, I didn't even know this was behind it.
Wow.
This one sits behind it. Okay. All right. Now, it's not as big as that one, but it's huge. Clearly you can see that. You can see the buildings, the little structures there.
Oh, that's a tree.
Right.
One tree.
Okay.
Big
now,
tree.
Yeah, that sits behind that one. All right.
Another
now
tree.
That's, maybe this will help you get a better idea. Now, I'm on the westbound side of the interstate, on the side of the road. And I'm standing behind the speed limit sign here, in front of my truck. Now, see the telephone poles? Again, you can get an idea how huge that thing is. All right. Then we got the two little ones next to it. Again, just look at the buildings, the little structures, and you can compare. Now, like I said, I didn't even know these were sitting behind that big one. Okay. Alright. And that's if you're traveling the state of New Mexico, Interstate 40, exit 333 in Tucumcari, New Mexico. There's a Love's truck stop across the street from these.
Dig on it.
If you want to check them out, if you're in a car, you'll probably be able to find some type of access road that goes back there to check them out. If you're in a truck, the truck stop's right there. Love's truck stop. All right. And this one is my favorite one.